Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collowood for YouTube. I'm here to do a Halloween video by request, requested by Darnell Weeks. Um, you know, my biggest issue was where do I start this video? So I'm going to start this video post Halloween Resurrection and the decisions made in the franchise. Decision to bring Rob Zombie in. My issue isn't bringing Rob Zombie in. My issue, folks, for me, for myself, because that's who I'm going to speak for. I'm never going to speak for anyone else here. I never would want to. It's the same thing I've said about Dark Shadows. I'm not here to speak for you. You need to speak for yourself. Um, again, you want to come on my channel, please do. You're more than welcome to. So, same thing with Halloween. I'm only going to speak for myself. My thought process was, well, that's interesting. And number two, when they said they were remaking John Carpenter's Halloween, I said, oh, okay. Keep in mind, many movies had gotten remade. And many people point to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie being the reason. I just think Hollywood goes through phases, remake phase, reboot phases, et cetera, superhero phase. I think right now, for example, from we're sort of coming up back upon a remake phase, in my opinion. I think movies will be remade again, and I think there have been some movies remade already. Um, Now, I'm not saying they're going to remake Halloween. I'm just giving you my opinion. So, were there other movies remade? Yes. Prior to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, yes. Were all of them horror? No. Psycho was remade in '98. Uh, Night of the Living Dead was remade in 1990. And if you want to go outside of horror, though it doesn't have the same title, which is interesting, um, Casablanca was remade in the '90s. It's a little movie called Barbed Wire. It stars Pamela Anderson, and no, it's not good. Um, um, so many movies get remade, rebooted, etc., etc. Many franchises, right? When you announce a reboot or a remake, and they announced a remake, I didn't jump at the reaction. I've talked about this. I more just waited to see what they were going to do. And then I went to go see the movie. And during the process of the movie, I saw what Rob was doing right away. He's remaking the Sister Connection. Here's my biggest issue with Rob's movies. It's not the continuity, lack of continuity. Yes, there's an issue with the second one, especially. Here's an honest question. Why would you remake slash reboot the Sister Connection when the Sister Connection was still going on? That sort of makes no sense. This, again, Halloween, the franchise, is not a television series. So you're not going to get a lot of character development in a very short period of time. You're going to get some. And you did get some, and especially in Rob's first one. And in Rob's, I will say part of Rob's second. Again, there was studio interference. There was an interview done by Justin Beam and what was it, Fangoria, I believe. I could be wrong about the magazine. If I am, I apologize. I know it was in a magazine um, where they talk about Halloween 2, Rob's Halloween 2. Him and Rob talk about it. Now, with that being said, as a fan, again, and I'm only giving my opinion as a fan, I believe the sabotage for Rob's films did not start with his Halloween 2. It started with his Halloween 1. And let me explain why I say this. Bro, I love buying DVDs. I love it. It's one of my best favorite things to do. I have a. I'm sure you guys have seen a picture of my collection on Facebook. Okay, I love buying movies, old movies, etc., etc. So, Rob's Halloween had come out on the first one had come out on DVD. Now, I want to make this very clear. Rob's Halloween was not the first movie to come out as an unrated version. A movie, I forget what movie did it first, but it was not his. I know it was another horror movie, but I can't, honest to God, I can't remember which one it was. It may have, I may be wrong, it may have been an action, but I know there was a movie that came out unrated. Rob's Halloween did not start that craze because I had bought an unrated movie, and when I had bought an unrated movie, the theatrical version came with it. I'm not talking Rob's Halloween, I'm talking the movie that had come out prior. Um, so it was really interesting that when they released this movie, Dimension, I mean, and Trancas, when they released the unrated version of Rob's Halloween, and I went to Walmart. Again, I wasn't going to FYE a lot, and I should have probably when I was only going to Walmart. I'll plead guilty to that much. So I'm going up to Walmart, and what do I see? Rob's unrated version, and I picked it up at the time, bought it. My brother had bought a version. He goes, "Hey, I brought Rob Zombie's Halloween." I said, "I did too." He goes, "No, no, I want to bring mine up." He didn't even let me finish that I had bought the same version. So, that being said, my brother, for senseless reasons, brought his version up. I had the same version, right? Now, I had not opened the DVD yet. Didn't even take the plastic off yet to watch it yet. I was waiting until October to watch all the Halloweens, like I usually do. That's what I was waiting for. I'm a very patient person when it comes to things like this, um, and people in general. I try to be as patient as humanly possible. So they, or sorry, my brother comes up, and I put the DVD in, and there's one disc. Okay, there might have been two for the bonus, but I remember one disc. Again, I'm going off memory. Now, keep in mind, there's there's one disc, okay? It has bonus fee. It has some bonus, but I'm noticing something when you brought up the menu. Unrated version, but no, there's no choice of theatrical. And I thought this was really weird. Like, why was this done? Because when you watch the unrated version, there's a bit of a difference. Loomis is a bit more of a standoffish jerk in the unrated version, which is why I think we saw Halloween 2 the way we did. Rob's Halloween 2. Again, for nobody, no director, no writer should have their movie interfered with. Despite what I think of the person's directing skills, it does not matter. You should not have your movie fucked with, period. So, and that includes on release too. And I do think this was done for Rob's original. So, bro, 6 months go by, and finally the theatrical cut is in stores. That's when I saw the theatrical cut in stores 6 months later. I'm not saying it wasn't out there. I saw it 6 months later. I kept looking for the theatrical cut at Walmart. I didn't just pick up the unrated cut and walk out of the electronics section. No, I looked around. I looked where because usually what you do see are two, sometimes you'll see two when they don't put it on one disc, they'll have it two separate things. Unrated version here, theatrical version here. That wasn't the case. There was no theatrical cut at that time, and I would stand by that. And if somebody wants to prove me wrong, then please do, because I could not find one, and I looked and looked and looked and looked. I looked at other Walmarts, nothing. I wasn't going to one Walmart. We had gone to the bigger Walmart that's across the hill. We had gone to the bigger Walmart that's in another city, another town, I should say, because the town I live in did not have a Walmart at that time. But you get what I'm saying. I looked, and there wasn't one, which I found odd. I wasn't mad. I just found it odd. Because for me, I never heard of this being done as a fan. Like, why do this? That sort of feels like you're trying to sabotage the next movie. That's how I felt as a fan. I can only tell you how I felt as a Halloween fan at the given point in time. So, Rob's Halloween 2 comes out. They go off the unrated version because, and I get why. That's what a lot of fans had seen on DVD. Not what they had saw in theaters, what they saw on DVD. And there's a difference. And I do think that's part of the issue of why it got made the way it got made. The studio fucked him over on the, again, I'm not stating this as fact. I'm stating this as my opinion. I want to be very clear. In my opinion, the studio fucked, I'm not saying Trancas, I'm saying, what is it? Dimension, the Weinsteins, fucked him over on the first DVD release. I don't think he was told the unrated version got released and that was it. I don't think he was told. I'm going to give Rob Zombie that. I could be wrong. Please do not take what I'm saying right now as fact. I'm merely giving an opinion. Now, the Halloween trilogy, David Gordon trilogy. Once again, instead of remaking something, instead of just rebooting it, which they're in a sense they are, they're retconning. So they're going off the John Carpenter's original Halloween, which everybody and their brother has seen. Okay, what's in John Carpenter's Halloween? Laurie Strode. Prior to meeting Laurie Strode, you meet a young girl named Judith Margaret Myers who was stalked by her brother, and then she is killed by her brother on Halloween. 15 years go by, he's 21. Again, I'm sort of somewhat giving Halloween 2's premise that he's 21. I do think he's 21 in 1978 anyway. Michael stalks 3 random girls. He killed a tow truck worker outside of town. He goes home. He sees Laurie Strode drop the keys off, and he follows her and her friends, and he stalks the hell out of them, and then he murders Annie, Bob, and Linda in that order. One was murdered inside the garage of the Wallace house. That's adjacent to the Wallace house. The other 2 were murdered inside the house, Bob and Linda. So Annie's murdered inside the garage, inside the car, right? Now, there's the writers make it very clear, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, this is not going off of Halloween 2. So there is no sister connection. At least there's not supposed to be. Okay, the John Carpenter's Halloween is about fate. That's what we've all been told. That's what we've all learned about it. So fate caught up with Laurie Strode and her friends. Michael Myers following Laurie and her friends was fate. It's just something that happened that could not be avoided. Right? Fast forward 40 years later. We're here at 2018, right? we have a young new cast with Jamie Lee Curtis. There's there's some veteran actors as well. You know who they are. And the story is, again, this is not the sister connection. They said, the writers, oh, we want nothing to do with that. We're going off the first one only. This is where my problem begins here. What do the writers do right? They do paint the picture. They paint two really good pictures. Number one, Laurie Strode inside her car waiting for the prisoner bus transport still wonders why her and why her friends. Now, I'm not saying you have to hit the audience over the head with this, but I do think it's not done enough. Because I think a lot of people miss this scene completely and just ignore it. Simply because this is where their focus lies, and it's words. Sometimes, I've often said with DS and Halloween, don't always listen to the words. Watch the facial reactions, watch the sequences in themselves. What's really going on? When Laurie Strode, it's one thing for Laurie Strode to, this is the second thing they do really well, to wrestle with herself of, do I really just want to take cold-blooded revenge against Michael Myers, or do I want to be part of my family's life? And yes, you could have a family element and not have the sister connection. I'm not saying you can't. You certainly can. And that's a picture they paint really well. The problem I have is this next thing. Laurie Strode out of her own mouth. Michael Myers is after my family. We just had a protagonist in Allison say they're not related. They're not brother and sister. Allison is telling you, I'm not worried about Michael Myers stalking me. She may not say those exact words, but that's in a sense what she's saying. I'm not worried about Michael Myers coming after me. I'm not related to him. My mom's not related to him. She's saying that in a sense. Then Laurie Strode, out of her own mouth, oh, he's going to come after my family. This is my issue with 2018. They stay too close to the sister connection to try to be their own thing. If you want to give Laurie a family, fine. If you want to give Laurie a daughter, fine. If you want to give Laurie a granddaughter, fine. You can have that and stay away from the sister connection. I did a video about how they should have put Allison over once. I'm not going to sit here and repeat myself a second time or a third time. Now, when you have Laurie have a family, you do need to stay away from the sister connection if that's not your intent. You don't have to have Laurie Strode say, he's after my family. You can have those scenes with Allison where she tells Allison, fuck college, go to a beach. What's she really saying? Live your life. Live your life. Beautiful. That's great. That's great. But when she turns around and says, oh, Michael Myers is coming after my family, again, that's too close to the sister connection. You need to sever from that. You need to stay away from that. I know I said I don't want to repeat myself. So I'll give you two. Again, you know the first option, which I'll leave a link to that other video. The second option would have been that Laurie is so bothered by the events 40 years ago that she doesn't associate with her family. That yes, Laurie Strode's family is aware of her, but they don't associate. She's a lone wolf. She's a loner. What do you see with most anti-heroes? They're loners. John Carpenter is no stranger to creating anti-heroes. Napoleon Wilson, Snake Plissken, Sam Loomis in a way. Again, you really have great anti-hero creations by John Carpenter. I think this is sort of where David Gordon Green's issue lies. He's not, it feels like he's not sure he wants Laurie to be an anti hero at times. And I think that's sort of why you're getting a little handcuffed to the sister connection a bit. If you're not, if you don't want to do that as a writer, you don't want Laurie Strode to say, "Oh, he's coming after my family." Okay, 40 years ago, did Michael Myers come after Laurie Strode's parents? No, not that we know of. No, he did not. So if he didn't come after your family 40 years ago, why would he come after your family 40 years later? Oh, wait, he wouldn't. And again, this is my problem with this trilogy. It's not sure what it wants to be. And that is the writer's fault. And yes, that's Jason Blum's fault too, and it's John Carpenter's fault as well. They approved this shit. If you're gonna praise them, you gotta give them the blame, and you do, and I will. My big issue: they don't go far away from it enough. Well, how would you? Okay, two ways. I just mentioned the second one. I'll re-mention the first one. If you really, really wanted to stay away from the sister connection, but wanted to have where Laurie is wrestling with what she really wants to do, that's fine, but you need to have participants who are either pushing her away or playing tug of war with her and Michael Myers. To the degree of here's Laurie's daughter who, yes, talks to her mother, but their relationship is not the best. Okay, we've seen. My only issue with this is you sort of see this with H2O with John Tate. Again, we're cloning characters and just making them slightly different. That's another issue I have too. Personally, I would not have did this. So you know what? I already mentioned the first time of how I would have did this. I'll mention how I would have really did this without Laurie having a family. What do you know about Dr. Sam Loomis? You know he's a doctor. You know he's a psychologist, a criminal psychologist. He's been Michael's doctor for 15 years. Let me ask you, does Donald Pleasence's Sam Loomis have a family? We don't know. We have no idea. Now you can give your opinion on whether you think he does or doesn't, but here's the point at the end of the day. Whether he does or doesn't fucking matter. Because why? Is Sam Loomis's family involved in 1978? No. Were they ever involved in the sister connection? No. That is an anti-hero. That is the definition of a lone wolf, of somebody who's looking to take down your killer. Whether he has a family, so what? Let's say he cut his ties with his family to make sure Michael never harmed anybody. That, yes, it's fucked up, but it makes him heroic in a sense too. From a fictional sense, it makes him heroic. Again, we've seen John Carpenter create anti-heroes before. Napoleon Wilson existed before Sam Loomis. Napoleon Wilson existed before Snake Plissken. I would dare say that Napoleon Wilson, the inspiration for Snake Plissken is Napoleon Wilson. From the original Assault on Precinct 13. Go watch it. Great movie. Great John Carpenter movie. One of the most underrated, in my opinion, if not the most underrated. I know Mouth of Hell, Mouth of Madness is supposed to be really good. I'm not saying it isn't. I just prefer the original Assault on Precinct 13 over it. My John Carpenter movie list would be probably the most skewed. Because I have the original Assault on Precinct 13 at number one, John Carpenter's The Thing, and John Carpenter's Halloween 2. I know I'm probably going to go to hell. Um, but all joking aside, all fun aside, take Laurie Strode. Okay, she survived the attack 40 years ago. Now, 40 years later, she never left, but she never had a family. She never got married. She never got kids. She could never get over her friend's death that much. And really, the writers in 2018, again, this is where I'll give them the credit. In that car, they do tell you when she's picturing Michael and screaming, in a sense, her character is asking, why? Why my friends? Why me? What did we do? It's a great moment in that movie that is not really capitalized on ever in any of the sequels, any of them. And that's another issue I have. So, but have Laurie Strode as this lone wolf, where she wants to kill Michael Myers. There's nothing wrong with that. She doesn't stalk him, she just waits. Now, do you have a character speak with her? You could have had Hawkins as a character who knew Laurie Strode, and we just never heard of him. Again, what is Haddonfield? It's a small town. Now, could you have Laurie Strode's family say they knew the Myers family? Sure. Because what do we hear in the original? No one's lived here since it happened, meaning since Judith Margaret Myers died. Even Donald and Edith Myers left their home. They sold their home to a realtor. The realtor was Laurie's dad. Did they know Laurie's dad? You can either go, yes, they knew him because it's a small town, or they just heard of him because it's a small town. You could pick either course. And still, you would be far enough away from the sister connection. You mean to tell me David Gordon Green and Danny McBride never thought of that? Because that I don't buy. They had to at least consider something like this. Because if you really want, what I'm really doing is calling bullshit on David Gordon Green. They didn't want to go away from the sister connection. They didn't. They just did it to appease John Carpenter because we all know how he feels about it. And I'm not saying that John's wrong. He can feel how he wants to feel. But at the same time, if you have two writers who really do want to do it, then fucking do it. Then do it. But if you tell your audience, we're not going to do the sister connection, then write it that fucking way. Actually have the fucking pair of balls to write it that way, because I don't buy that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are incompetent. I don't buy that they're bad writers. I buy that they had indecision problems. They could not decide what they wanted to make this in the first movie. Oh, we can have Michael, and this Laurie feud again. We can have Laurie have a family. Okay, yes, you can. But you need to look at what's been done honestly. They said they did. Okay, if you looked at what's been done honestly, if you watched those sequels and you saw Halloween H2O, then why are you making it more of an effort to make it far more different than what H2O did? You don't need to have, again, is Karen John Tate, Karen Strode is a female version of John Tate, and I'll say that right here and now. The only big real difference is, and it's very slight, Karen Strode had to be trained by Laurie Strode. She was taken away by children and youth. Yes, she had to hear about Michael Myers. Guess what? John Tate had to hear about Michael Myers too for 20 years. No one took his ass away. Um, Again, it's care. Often enough times, stories tend to mirror one another. Not exactly, but just enough that you can create a character out of it. And that's what happens here. If you really want Laurie, you don't have to give Laurie Strode a family. But if you do give her a family, you need to be aware of what's been done and write it to the degree of, okay, we don't want to write this like H2O. Let's have Laurie Strode, after 40 years, be torn what kind of life she wants to live. That I buy. That I would subscribe to. And let me tell you why. They partially do it in H2O, but you could make the whole movie about that, where she's torn with, do I want to avenge my friends or do I want to be part of my family's life? She does not go, instead of having her go to the bus crash, she just go, or the prisoner transport, where she waits on him. She goes to the dinner. She makes the choice of where to go. She defies fate only for the bus crash to happen and Fate's laughing in Laurie Strode's face. That's not the brother-sister connection. That's its own thing. Again, the writers did not do this. I don't mind what happened in the car. You could have that same thing happen at dinner, where she's eating, she seems to be normal, and then she starts thinking about Annie. She starts thinking about Linda. Laurie Strode could have her, in a sense, a Bruce Wayne moment, but more of a public moment where she's at the restaurant with her family and she starts thinking about her dead friends, thinking about their bodies, thinking about seeing their bodies dead. Where's that moment? You know how like Bruce Wayne goes to where his parents were killed? He doesn't just go to the cemetery. He goes to where they were killed. He goes to Crime Alley. And he keeps remembering why he's become Batman. You can have Laurie Strode remember why she was so indecisive for 40 years. And then the bus crash happens, and then Fate's laughing at Laurie in a way. Like, you really think you can live a normal life? No, you can't. Fate, what do we hear? Fate caught up with several lives here. Well, Fate catches back up with Laurie Strode. Not just Laurie Strode, but the town of Haddonfield, the people who live in it, and that so happens to include her family. That's not the sister connection. That would have been your own thing. They don't do that well enough, though. And that's my biggest issue with this trilogy. I don't blame COVID for this trilogy, me not liking the trilogy. I blame the poor writing and the indecision of where you want to go. Pick a fucking lane. Pick a fucking lane. No matter who says what, no matter if John Carpenter says something, no matter if John Henry Smith says something, it doesn't fucking matter. If you're a writer, someone else's opinion does not matter. If you're writing the headline, if you're the one writing the story by yourself, do other people's opinions matter? Fuck and no. No offense, but fuck and no. I hope he doesn't mind using. I'm gonna use two people as an example. Do you think when John Philip Betancourt writes a story, he consults me? No, because it's his fucking story. When Daniel Culver writes a story, do you think he consults me? No, it's his story. When Darnell Weeks writes a story, do you think he consults me? No, it's his fucking story. If you're the writer, no matter who created the product, When I wrote my first Dark Shadow story, do you think I held a seance and was trying to contact the ghost of Dan Curtis? No. Do you think I was telling people what I'm going to do? No. Why? Because it doesn't matter. It's your story to write. Whether it's fan fiction or your own shit, it's your story. Same thing with Halloween. If you're going to honestly not do the sister connection, then honest to God, don't do that. But don't fucking tell me you're not going to do it and turn around and stay so fucking close to it, your film sort of fucking somewhat looks like it. Because that's a lie. You've, in a sense, lied to me. And that's something I can't stand. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride did not know what they were doing. Or they did not know where they wanted to take this. They had indecision problems. They had decision problems. They were full of indecision. They couldn't pick a lane. Pick a lane and stick with it. It's that simple. Pick a lane. Go down that lane and stay on that road. Don't stray, no matter what anybody tells you as a writer, because at the end of the day, it's your story. If they picked my hapless ass to write a Halloween and they said, what do you want to do? I'd like to do a series based upon the sister connection. And this is how I'd like to do it. And I would explain them how I would like to do it. Again, is it just going to be about the sister connection? No, because that's not just the sole focus. It's going to be about the town of Haddonfield, the people who still live there, the people who left there, who's still there. Why did those people leave? Oh, wait, there's a serial killer who comes around once a year who affects their fucking lives. Again, if you're going to not have the sister connection, then don't. I can't stress this enough. But if you really want that, then fucking do that. If I didn't want the sister connection at all, if it were me, I wouldn't have a Laurie fucking Strode at all. I wouldn't even chance Laurie Strode being in the movie. I would base it off new characters. And you know how you get taught about fate? In the first Halloween? In this Halloween, you get to learn about the history. The students are learning about the history of the murder. It's coming upon the 40-year anniversary of the murders, but they don't just talk about what happened with Laurie Strode. They also talk about Judith Margaret Myers. When you learn history in school, you don't just learn your country's history. You generally learn your fucking state history. Just saying. But, again, look, there's nothing anyone can do to make me like the new trilogy. Do I think that one day we'll get a proper Halloween movie? Yes, I do. I don't know when that'll be. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a mind reader. But let me make this real clear, because I've said this about the 2012 Dark Shadows movie. I've heard over the internet that there are people fan shaming people who like this trilogy. First of all, stop it. Grow the fuck up. It's a movie. You don't have to like the movie, but it is not your job nor none of your fucking business who does and who chooses to like it. Everybody is entitled to like what they like. Get the fuck over it. And that is my message at the end of this movie. If you honestly don't like this trilogy, and I don't, then fine, don't like it. But you have no right to shit on people who do like it. Period. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this answers questions. You guys have a good day. This ran too long. All right. Bye-bye.